By 1974, Eric had overcome his heroin addiction that had started during his time in Cream, but a new addiction to alcohol took over, as well as unrequited love for George Harrison's model wife, Pattie Boyd.
It's late in the evening. She's wondering what clothes to wear.
He was completely besotted by her, and I think that kind of ruled his life for quite a few years. As a result of that, we got some of his most beautiful songs. Wonderful Tonight, which is rumoured to be about her, and bits of the album Layla as well are written about Pattie. So I think she was a huge influence on him.
Clearly the narrator of Wonderful Tonight is drunk. What the Muse thought about this drunken man effectively slobbering all over her and struggling with the car keys has never really been recorded. But you could see that that was a doomed relationship, and it would never last.
Eric was in love with Pattie Boyd, George Harrison's wife. Harrison knew about this, but was surprisingly unfazed by it, and then eventually they divorced, and then she ended up marrying Eric Clapton.
And then she'll ask me.
His marriage to Pattie Boyd would last only 5 years, and he captured their continuing troubles on the album Behind the Sun, written with Phil Collins. It saw Clapton experiment with synthesizers and embrace MTV with his first video for the single Forever Man.
How many times must I tell you, babe? How many bridges I've got to cross? How many times must I explain myself? Or I can talk to the boss.
Eric's drug and drink addictions were taking hold of his life, and she has also admitted to taking alcohol and taking drugs, but never the same level as he was taking it. And clearly that was the spark of their relationship which brought them together, and it also tore them apart.
I'll try to be your forever man. Try to be your forever man.
In 1991, Clapton was hit with tragic news when his 4-year-old son Connor fell from an open window in New York City to his death. Clapton wrote one of his most personal songs, Tears in Heaven, about his loss.
Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven?
Oddly, for someone who is so immersed in the blues, Eric Clapton has revealed very, very little of himself in his music. He wrote Tears in Heaven. He was explicitly about the unimaginable horror of losing your son. It's something that only those who've been through that could possibly explain or possibly understand.
Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven?
Devastating song, obviously, written after his son falls out of a window. And what's interesting to me about that track is that he used it as quite openly as a kind of therapy at the time. He got a songwriter involved, Will Jennings, who actually wrote the When My Heart Will Go On for Titanic, to help him with the lyrics.
The track was included on Clapton's MTV Unplugged album. As well as being his biggest album to date, selling 10 million copies worldwide, it made Clapton return to his earlier sound of stripped-back blues.
I think he kind of surprised a lot of people when he did that, because that whole album was a kind of turning point and really helped the whole Unplugged movement to kind of kick off when MTV started doing that. His was the first really successful album, and Layla was kind of bluesy shuffle to it.
As well as a return to blues, in 1998, Clapton released My Father's Eyes, a song about the father he never knew. Later, a journalist uncovered that his father never discovered that Clapton was his son before his death in 1985, completely unaware that his son was one of the most famous guitarists in the world.
He never knew his father, as we know, and also his father never being able to see his grandchildren, his father having broken that family link. And that too is unusually open and emotional for Eric Clapton. And it's very interesting that he made a rare public statement several years later saying that he wasn't going to play those songs anymore, and that the emotions that he felt then were no longer relevant to the Eric Clapton of today. And I think that says an awful lot about him and about his ability to parcel up pain, put it in drawers and leave it.
Clapton has continued to release new studio albums and to tour extensively. His long list of former bandmates has meant he has had many people to rejoin on stage. He has even performed with Jeff Beck, the man who replaced him in the Yardbirds.
I thought that you'd be loving me.
He can still sell out 5 nights at the Albert Hall and embark on these tremendous tours. And I think it's leaving a body of work, a legacy of work over a sort of 15-year period that is as solid as it gets.
And I'm still here.
Eric Clapton's legacy is just that he is a fantastic blues guitarist, and that he was really firmly entrenched in putting, British guitarists on the map.
I was never waiting. I was never waiting.
He will be remembered for someone who understood the blues, like I think very, very few white British men have ever done. He gets it. He gets the blues, and that will be his legacy.